Okay, so with that, I would like to introduce our presenter today, Karen Strange. Karen has over 25 years of experience as a language instructor, and for the past 14 years, she's been employed by the Leroy Collins Leon County Public Library System as the ESOL Program Coordinator. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and pass it over to her.
All right, thank you, Nicole, and hello, everyone, and thank you for participating. And I'd really like to thank Nicole for setting all this up, and thank Florida Literacy Coalition as well. And we're going to jump right into this, vocabulary game plans for ESOL tutors. And I want to say, first off, the impetus for this topic was really started last fall, and I had asked the tutors in our program for some suggestions for topics for in-service, things like that. And two of my tutors in particular, Deborah and Jamie, they both had recommended vocabulary. So we can blame everything on them. I had originally planned to present this at the Florida Literacy Coalition conference and had lots of hands-on activities. Well, of course, that has all changed with the pandemic. And I've had a lot of people asking about just activities that they can use remotely. And so I've just looked into my bag of tricks and came up with a few things. So I'm glad you're all here, and I'm going to move on here. Let's see. And just a little bit about my background. I am a linguist. I have a degree in linguistics, English linguistics, and also comparative historical Indo-European linguistics. So basically, I've had to learn a lot of vocabulary over the years. And I've also been teaching languages for quite a while, as Nicole has mentioned. And at this point, Nicole, if you could pull up the first poll I have for everyone. I want to know, how many times must a learner engage with a word before they own it? Yeah. And by own it, I really mean the ability to actively use the word in speech and or writing. So go ahead, do that, and we'll give everybody just a second. And Nicole, do we have the results of that?
Yes, people are still voting.
They're still voting. Okay.
A little bit, but we'll go ahead and close that.
Well,
in
go
about
ahead.
5 seconds.
We can let. Yeah, we can let. If people are still voting, we'll give them time to do that.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share the results now.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, good. A lot of people have the 10, and I was going to say it was actually a trick question, and and mainly that learning vocabulary, it takes a lot longer than what we think, and learners must engage multiple times and over an extended period of time. And all the research that I've looked at, you see some mixed results, but for as far as exact numbers, no one really gives it, but in excess of 7 to 10, someone mentions 11. The more often you can engage with it, the better the chances are that you're actually going to be able to own that vocabulary. So now, how to help our learners with the vocabulary. Learner-centered instruction, help them make connections and make it engaging. Learner-centered instruction. Yes, with this crowd, I don't think I have to go into detail explaining what learner-centered instruction is or how important it is. Just wanted to briefly just have it up there, knowing your learner's level, the background, and also their interest. Making connections. With this, we think about 3 things: the utility of it, the collocations, and word families. The utility is the vocabulary that your learner has indicated they would like to learn, or that you know that they will need to know. That comes up. Collocations, and learning these types of word combinations, it is very helpful for learners. Just if you think about it, in English, we say take a photo, but in other languages, if you translate it, it usually comes out to make a photo. So we hear a lot of our learners making that type of error. And just knowing that, it can be a confidence boost for them. It can be very helpful. Word families. There's Learning related words can help make a deeper connection, and it increases the total vocabulary that your learner will have available for use. And in word families, we're talking about word forms. So things like walk, walking, to walk, walker, or walking dead, as we talk about these days. Also, the different groups, whether it's a semantic or a thematic group, for example, all the colors or all the things in a restaurant. And also thinking about the use of prefixes and suffixes. And if you do a search, Google, whatever, you'll see that the most common prefix and suffix, un and the ly. And those are the ones, so if nothing else, learning those will just dramatically increase the vocabulary level of your learners. And as a linguist, I cannot help but point out that the ly ending is actually, if you go back far enough, it has the meaning of like, to be like something else. So friendly, be like a friend. And, but relating it back to The Walking Dead, that same word in English it's related to the word lich, and also to the German word Leiche, which means corpse. Just thought I'd throw that in for a little bit of interest. So words, making it engaging. And games and challenges. Nicole, we have our second poll. Can you pull that one up? And this
Yes.
poll, I just want to find out if you use games or challenges as part of your lessons. Yeah. We'll give everyone time to think about that. And after you answer the poll, maybe in the chat, put in what types of games or challenges do you use in your lessons? Ooh, Scrabble, Kahoot, bingo cards. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results.
Okay. Oh yeah, good. 75% of you are using polls. And I see a lot of things coming up in the chat, all different things that are coming up, sentence building games, crossword puzzles. Yeah. And so that's really what I want to talk about today are the games and challenges. And I love the games and challenges because they are a non-boring way to review and practice vocabulary, which is, remember now, the learners need to encounter and engage with vocabulary in excess of 10 times in order to do that. Games of tracks. Yes, I like that. Okay. So the acquisition of new vocabulary does require multiple encounters, and whatever we can do to make learning more effective and less tedious will benefit everyone involved, including you as a tutor or teacher. Games and challenges fulfill both these criteria, so that's a fun thing. And these are just some of the activities I want to talk about today. Well, some of you have already mentioned these. Hangman, yeah. So creating your own puzzles, using printed games, activities adapted for digital learning. So I have a lot of websites listed here, and the ones that I've chosen, I'm going to just tell you what my criteria are for choosing a site. One, it has to be useful. Two, it has to be easy to navigate, because it may not just be me using it, which I actually like things that are easy to navigate. Free, also important, and also not overrun with ads. I just hate when you get to a website and it's full of ads and it's hard to really figure out, wait a minute, what is the site and what is the ad? Always end up clicking on the wrong thing. So one of my favorite sites, education.com. Some of you may know this. Some of you have mentioned crossword puzzles, and it is a great site. You can create your own crossword puzzle. And just to make it, so if you're working one-on-one, someone had mentioned in the chat about having things they could use in real life. Yeah, this would be a good one. You could go there, print it out, and you have it. If you're still working, which I think most of us are working remotely with our learners, then you can make it an activity that you can share with them via Zoom. You can do it together, or you can send it to them and they could do it online. And the other side is PDF Escape. Nicole has a listing of the various websites here, and I am also going to have it at the end. Now I'm going to try and switch over to the PDF Escape site. And there we go. And I am going to also, can everyone see the PDF Escape site? I hope so. Yeah. What I'm going to do now is, anyway, so you come here to this one and you would just drop your PDF into there, and or you can choose your file. And in this case, I'm just going to show you what I did there. You open it and voila, it has your puzzle. Then to create it so that you have it, so that you can actually make it form fillable, you just come over to the form field and you choose which type of form you're going to have. So in this case, text. The other options you have, though, or you can see a checkbox, all sorts of things. So in this case, we're just going to use the text, select, and then you just draw here, boom, and voila, they can put in a letter, it'll be a text, whatever, it will be form fillable. So you have to do it for every single little box. So it's going to take you a while to do that. But so don't make giant puzzles unless you have lots of time. So now I'm going to stop sharing this. I'm going to go back to our presentation. And there we go. So that one is a very interesting one, and you can use it for so many different things, making puzzles. And in this case, I have the example of a crossword puzzle. And I will be honest, I hate crossword puzzles, but I've discovered that our ESOL learners love crossword puzzles. You can also do word searches and other things like that. Another possibility is just, although the idea is to have material you can use remotely or online, there are a few printed books that are very useful, and you can just scan the pages or take a photo and upload it. And in this case, this one, the Games for Vocabulary Practice, is from Cambridge. It has photocopiable pages. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Oxford Picture Dictionary, and it's useful for learners of every level. And there are also some picture dictionaries that are online, and some are better than others. And I just let people choose whatever they want. They can take a look at, there's several, if you just Google that, then you'll find things. This one, the Games for Vocabulary Practice, I chose that particular activity. It's fully furnished, you can see, and it's just choosing vocabulary to fit into a house. That would be useful for almost anyone. And you could use the pages from the Oxford Picture Dictionary, you could use your online, you could use the list that the author had provided. Now, the idea to make it a game is that you have to then use a dice and to roll and see which room you land in, and then you have to name the items that go there. Well, in this case, instead of having to figure out some other workaround, then I say go straight to the Dungeons and Dragons dice roller. Yes, the game Dungeons and Dragons. And this is from Wizards of the Coast. They're the current publisher of the game Dungeons and Dragons. And I am going to try and pull this one up. Let's see. Back to, let's see. All right, hopefully everyone is now seeing the Wizards of the Coast Dungeons and Dragons dice roller. And you can see it has all the funny dice that you may know from Dungeons and Dragons. But what I like about this one, down at the very bottom, it also has where you can decide what type of dice you want to have. Boom. So in that case, I just made it a 5-sided die. and you roll it and it rolls a 3, and it will keep track of the rolls. So it's kind of a fun thing. And this, you'll see will come, there's a lot of other games that are available, or you can just use a board game. And if you're just need to use dice, the dice roller is very handy, and it doesn't require, it's free. You don't have to have an account, nothing like that. So, and of course, you never know when you're going to need to use that 4-sided die or a 20-sided die, or roll percentages. There's also percentage dice right in there. Now, back. So this is an example of just a little board game. This one is from thebusyteacher.org, and it has to do with food, always a happy topic. And you could make up your own using the same format, or you can find other ones. There's all kinds that are available. You, again, could use the dice roller. And in this case, since it's a very short game, you, instead of, they had recommended using a 6-sided die, I would say you make your own and make it a 2-sided die so that you more chance of landing on things. Then another activity adapted from a print book is this from Vocabulary Activities by Penny Orr, and this is also from Cambridge. And the 2 activities I looked at in particular were Word of the Day and Show and Tell. And you can use any online dictionary for either of these. There's dictionary.com, Merriam-Webster has one. And of course, my favorite though is going to be Wictionary. You may have heard of Wikipedia, and there's also Wictionary, which you may have heard of. Not sure. I'm going to pull up that now, hopefully. And where'd it go? There we go. I like Wictionary. Of course, it's free, and it has Word of the Day, and it has where you can look up words. And it also has, which is interestingly enough, I find they have foreign word of the day. And it's not just your typical foreign word of the day. In this case, they have it in classical Nahuatl, which, yes, so they also use some of the old dead languages. So I truly appreciate that. And whenever you do look up a word, put that in. It not only gives you just the alternative forms, the etymology, the pronunciation, and also some meanings. I also like that it includes synonyms, and if sometimes they also include, well, artwork and anagrams. So in this case, the artwork, I love this. This is, I think, a great depiction of actually tedium and tedious, which we have been trying to avoid, right? So there we go. And let's hope that none of our sessions ever end up like this group of cardinals. Yeah, okay. So Wictionary is, I think, a fabulous activity, and it's something you can use with your learners. You can just go look at it yourself sometime. And now we'll go back. In these activities, they're from the page before that also mentioned using not just simple words, but also sometimes quotations. And she does recommend a couple of sites, and you can look at them. One of the sites I had problems accessing. I'm not sure if I was just being blocked by the county, or which I can't imagine why. But the other one, it has a lot of good words, but it had quite a few ads. You may be familiar with Goodreads if you track your books, or just you check Goodreads to see if there's a good review on a book, but they also have a quotes section. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Goodreads quote section, but it's a lot of fun. They have all kinds of things. You can look by popular or by author. So another good source for finding quotes. And Kahoot, I know some of you have mentioned Kahoot, and I'm hoping that you do already know about Kahoot, or if you don't, you're going to learn about it now. It is a great website. You can use it, the free version, or if you're lucky enough, you can maybe get the paid version, which just gives you a few more options as far as pictures and things like that. But you don't have to. You can just use the free one. And we did spring for the Kahoot Premium just because we wanted to have a few other things go with it. But right at the beginning of all of this, when we had our shutdown, I was just using the free version and found it to work very well. The students seem to enjoy using it, and it is kind of fun creating the quizzes. They have quizzes that already exist, but I like making my own. And this one we have, it's based on a hurricane lesson that we have created. And one of the tutors in my program is a retired meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and hurricanes were his area of specialty. So we're lucky to have him. And every year he gives a couple of presentations about hurricanes, hurricane preparedness, things like that. And yeah, this year we moved it online as well. And another timely topic, since we do have a tropical storm, it looks like, that may be heading towards us. I don't know, they keep moving it further and further to the east, so maybe it'll just end up being a fish hurricane. This Kahoot, it's just 10 questions, and it's a combination of quiz questions or true and false questions. And yeah, it's something really simple. What is a hurricane? Yeah. And one thing you'll notice, there is a hedgehog. And you may be wondering, yes, what do hedgehogs have to do with hurricanes? Absolutely nothing. But the question is, or in this case, true or false, you are required to have a hedgehog in your disaster supply kit. And I call this it's golden egg vocabulary. These are words that are not part of the scheme of the lesson, but they're fun to know and are kind of unexpected. And you can also use these types of words, sort of go down another trail with the learners. So, for example, hedgehogs, they are considered wise and hardworking. And say, can you think of other animals that are given positive attributes? So I'll give you a chance in chat. If you can think of an animal, maybe your favorite animal, that it has been given a positive attribute, like such as the hedgehog, that is wise and hardworking, put it in the chat. Tigers, yeah. Beavers, yeah. And owls, yes. Owls, lots of owls. I have to say, I live in a woodsy area and I have lots of owls, and my dog thinks he's an owl. And so this morning, the dog and the owls were communicating. Bears, horses, elephants, memory, yeah. Alligators. There's Caroline talking about the alligators. Yeah, we have clever as a snake. Yeah, owls and beavers. Yeah. So what's interesting is they're not necessarily universal. Ants and foxes, yeah, there's lots of tales about that. And Julia, hi. But in different cultures, different animals may have different attributes. So that's something that could be a discussion about that. But anytime you can include a hedgehog, I think is fun. And create the list. You can use theirs. It has so many possibilities. It also has the lookup feature. I like this. So for example, talking earlier, walk, and boom, it pulls up, tells you what walk, and gives you pronunciation guide. And it also tells you about the word family, walk, walking, the walk family, things, and then gives lots of examples of this. So this is the lookup feature. But what's a lot of fun with this one is the quiz type aspect of it. They have the various lists you can go to, and you can just search a list and then it will have questions about it, or you can just go with whatever they have here, just randomly. Yes, choose the best picture for pollution. Yeah, so there we go. And then it explains to you about this. So you could do this if you want to do it, but I'm thinking of your learners. This is something they can do. You can do with them, you can do it together, or you can have them also do some on their own. So vocabulary.com, it is a wonderful website. You can just use it for so many different things. And again, you create your free account and off you go. And so now the next one, Voice of America. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Voice of America website. They have the Learning English whole programs for that. And there is, though, one aspect you may not be familiar with, and that is the news words. And back to this. I'm going to show you this. And this is a whole section where they have words that are in the news. It's not a huge section, but what I like about this feature is that it has very timely vocabulary. So if you were working on something like that with current events, this would be a great one. And then they also have the narrators explaining about the word. So I do hope that I have shared the video here and this audio, and we'll see.
To the Voice of America's Newswords.
Finding toilet paper during a pandemic can be a struggle.
So, panic, toilet paper, pandemic. Yeah, I'm hoping that you can all see this. Are you able to see the video and hear the video? Yes, excellent. Okay. And I just want to point out that I love the voices of the narrators. It's very soothing.
Panic.
In March, areas of the United States were told to self-quarantine to slow the spread of the disease COVID-19. It caused people to panic and buy lots of items like toilet paper.
So I think that kind of explains it, and I like that they include particularly about the toilet paper. I'm sure that not just for us, for people all over the world, it was kind of baffling that why toilet paper would be the thing that we would go for. Yeah. So, yeah, someone says the Voice of America is a great resource. It is I love it. I love this website. I love everything about it. We could just use this all the time. Again, so the news words from the Voice of America website, and it is a fabulous resource. And you can see things that are coming up, oh, here we go. They have some new stuff. And just almost every couple of weeks, they add in new words. And there's a short video. Each of the videos is maybe a minute long. So it is very helpful for talking about timely vocabulary, things that are coming up, questions that your learners may have. Then another one, English page. So this is one that was actually recommended to me by one of the tutors in my program. So thank you, Greg. Yes, I find it very interesting and very useful. And I just pulled this one up, presidential elections. This is going to be another timely topic. So this is a good place to start out with some vocabulary. People may have questions about it, or may be curious about it. So this is good. And it also tells you, a bit about the vocabulary, what the parts of speech. So a little bit different take on that. And again, what I like about this one, besides the fact that it is free, it has some other aspects. Let me find, let's see, there we go, English page. And let's see. This one, it has all kinds of activities here, but then you can see there are other things that are added in. You have the information about vocabulary, the verb tenses, and then different forms. And then there's a lesson. You have vocabulary. You can see all sorts of things. So this is the one we just had pulled up there. And you can see it has more, and there's more. There's vocabulary and conversation, then a vocabulary follow-up. So you pull this up and there's, we'll fill in the blank questions about this. So you can see you could use the same vocabulary a couple of different ways, sort of reinforcing. And you could do this if you're working one-on-one, you could just do it together. If you're in a Zoom or Google Duo or FaceTime or whatever it is that you're using, or if you're actually meeting face-to-face, you can do it together on a screen, or you can print it out ahead of time. There's a lot of different ways to use this. So this one is fun and also very useful. And as you can see, there's not, even though it is a free site, there's not that many ads. So I appreciate that. And then, of course, dialogues and role plays, that is just a fabulous way to reinforce any type of learning with, particularly with the vocabulary. And you'll see there, I mentioned using props. So yes, use props. And it's using dialogues and role plays, that is the thinking and actual producing of the vocabulary, the language, the real thing. And I always say you get extra points for melodrama. So if you can make it a very passionate dialogue and role play about hurricanes. Yes, so kind of have the hurricane theme going with this one, but just, hello, we live in Florida and it is hurricane season. And you can see it just used as the prop, used the tracking chart that just got that from the National Hurricane Center, and you can get that from lots of different locations. But so if someone wanted to chart the progress, you could talk about, oh, they start over here, then they move around. And then just a really quick vocabulary sheet that I had created for our hurricane presentation. And again, there's a dialogue that is based on a conversation that I actually heard. And then if you wanted to turn it into a role play, you could just hide the dialogue part, just use the vocabulary and just see what comes up. And you'd be amazed. And it really does help the learners to be able to use that in still sort of a controlled situation. And it helps to reinforce what they've learned and also gives them a sense of confidence of being able to actually use it. They're generally happy about that. And remember, in this case, this is about a hurricane, but you can have dialogues and role plays about other things. It could be going to the grocery store. It could be having a conversation at the doctor's office. And I said, in this case, let your learners also play the roles of the clerk or the receptionist. Let them see it from the other side. Yeah, I have in my notes, let them play the part of the car warranty rep. Yes, that seems to be the only person who is calling me now. Is somebody trying to tell me that I need to extend the warranty on my 12-year-old car. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah. Okay. Not happening. So what we're getting to, going back to thinking about that, yes, we need to make sure that the learners engage and encounter vocabulary multiple times over a longer time period and just keep pushing it. So you introduce your vocabulary, and then there's a lot of things you can do. All these things that we've talked about, you can search for quotes. You can go to vocabulary.com. You can create a Kahoot. You can go to Wictionary and check out the word. It's, again, finding that connection to the word, being able to really connect with it and find out more information about it. And that will help them really make that connection. This will help you as well if you're trying to learn another language, or if you're just trying to improve your own vocabulary. Maybe you want to do that. Doing all of these things it reinforces it and it repeats it. It's the repetition, and hopefully you will not be bored doing it. And that is, again, as you remember, one of the most important things, in my opinion, not to be bored. And so here are, again, I think Nicole has in the chat, it's some of the resources that I've mentioned, and some of the books are the first ones. That vocabulary activities is fun. The games for for vocabulary practice, and Oxford Picture Dictionary. If you don't have an Oxford Picture Dictionary, then you may want to go ahead and spend the money for that. It is a lot of fun. And there are so many more websites that are available. I was just recently introduced to wordwall.net. I don't know if any of you have heard of this or if you've used it, wordwall.net. I haven't had a chance to really explore and create anything with it. Yeah, if you're familiar with wordwall.net, you can just put that in the chat maybe and just say, yeah, it's great, or no, stay away, save me some. But I'm hoping to do that over the next few days, go into the wordwall.net and just see. It also has some game activities. Yeah, so it may be worth checking out yourself. But these are ones that I use a lot, the ones that I have listed here. And yeah, there's so many other things, and anything that you find, it again, just kind of don't just grab onto anything. Take time to look at it, explore it a little bit, and share it with others. Then, of course, we have going into a deeper dive. And in this case, the Oxford Picture Dictionary again, and the Vocabulary Teaching Handbook. And it is a great handbook because it has a lot of information, and also because it's not 400 pages long. I think there's maybe 30 pages in it, something like that, and has some really good activities listed in there. The Oxford Picture Dictionary, Vocabulary Teaching Handbook. Then the other two books, they're the Vocabulary Development and the Vocabulary Description, Acquisition, and Pedagogy. These are, there's just a ton of wealth of information on vocabulary instruction and acquisition research. So it's looking into the research and of vocabulary acquisition, how we do it, what are the best practices, how does the brain actually do it. And that's really interesting. These are not books that you're going to pick up and read in just a half an hour. These are ones that they're very thoughtful, and it will possibly guide you in the future for this. Khan Academy. Khan Academy is, yeah, I love that website as well. That's a good one. I think if you don't know about Khan Academy, you need to visit that. That's in the chat. Caroline just mentioned Khan Academy in the chat, so that's why I'm mentioning that. I just want to point out too a couple of things that I did not talk about, and rather deliberately did not talk about. Sometimes you hear, people say, how many words per week should the learner be looking at, or the number of words that should be in the learner's total vocabulary at different levels, and this. And I really deliberately did not talk about that because it's going to depend so much on your learner's individual circumstances. And it depends on the type of vocabulary they're learning and how much time they have available, and what, again, their educational background is. There's so many variables. It's hard to say. I think really you just, the old, there was How to Build a Bridge. You just keep driving bigger and bigger trucks over it until it falls. Yeah. So same thing with the vocabulary. Just keep adding in vocabulary, encouraging them to learn as much as possible. And once they get into the habit of it, they, go with it. And there's really, again, no set thing, but you definitely want them to be interested. You want them to be challenged. And NPR is a great website. They have, if you go to, of course, you can listen to the radio, again, in the chat. I'm looking at the chat. And let's see. There's, again, so many websites. I do like the NPR website, though, because particularly for our learners, because they can listen to it, they can stop and back it up. Whereas listening live on the radio, that's impossible. So the website is a fabulous resource for current events. And this is, let's throw this out there. Nicole and I were talking earlier about playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I, yes, have been playing Dungeons and Dragons for a very long time. I'm going to give myself away here. This is a cartoon. It was actually from the first version of the Dungeon Master's Guide. and it's just a little cartoon. You can read the text, but now you have to look at the monk and look at the title of the book that he is reading. Yes, Papers and Paychecks. So that's the game that we're all playing now in real life. So, Nicole, are there any questions? I haven't seen.
I believe you may have answered this throughout your throughout the webinar, but I'll go ahead and ask it just in
Yeah.
case.
Uh-huh.
So Laura asks, I'm a one-on-one tutor. Are there specific games I can play with my learner, or that the learner can play with a spouse?
Yeah, that's any of these would be useful. And again, depending on your learner, depending on their level, any of these would be appropriate. If you have the Kahoot, is a lot of fun for people if they have access to the internet, or they can even send it to each other on their phones and things like that. And they could, again, just create an account. It is a free account. You don't have to pay for it. And if they're meeting in real life, then any of the board games we have in our resource lab, quite a collection of games. We have things like Clue and Scrabble. I saw some people have mentioned Scrabble. And although those seem, sometimes at first people think, what? These are for kids. No, but they're having to play them in English, and they're getting to use the vocabulary. And it also kind of takes them out of I am a learner learning English. And instead they become a player who is playing the game. And it takes away some of the inhibition for speaking, particularly for some of the shyer students. I think it helps them to build their confidence to use their language in real life, in this case, in a game. Yeah, any game you can play is a good game. We have actually played Dungeons and Dragons with some of our learners, and we have played there's other role-playing games. If some of you are familiar with playing any of the role-playing games, we had for a while a group that was playing a board game, a role-playing game that was based on the video game Dragon Age, and that was a lot of fun. And nowadays there are games that are about everything, and then there's other thinking games. Code names, we have that in our resource lab. One of our volunteers is a game person, and I always go by her recommendations as far as board games. So Jennifer, if she's out there, she is the one who gives me great suggestions for board games adding to our collection. Okay, anything else? I saw there's a couple of things. Yeah,
we have a few more questions here.
Yes.
What are your feelings about the student keeping old-fashioned homemade vocab cards from lessons and words encountered?
Anything that you can do. I'm guessing that most people do use word lists, and probably a lot of people use even flashcards. And yes, absolutely. What I'm suggesting today are things in addition to that. Flashcards for vocabulary. I have studied much vocabulary myself using those. They do work. You have it right there in front of you. And then also there's some theory that the idea of touching the cards and flipping the cards, that also helps activate your memory of whatever it is that you're trying to learn. The only thing is, I always remind everyone, we're training we want our learners to be comfortable using English. We're not training them to be translators. So we just don't want to necessarily have them always doing that translation step. But for learning some vocabulary to begin with, I think that's a great way. Yes. I like writing. I do like the old school stuff. Okay.
All right. We have another question here. Mm-hmm. Are any of these pay sites available through our county libraries?
That I am not sure about. Right now, everything I've had today was free. You can use free. The Kahoot, we do have the paid version, and we have that through our agency. And if you're whatever organization you're working with, they may have a paid account. I'm trying to remember exactly how much it was. It was like $3 a month though for the paid Kahoot account. So if you wanted to try it for a month or two, yeah, you might be able to afford that on your own, or get together with some other people and come up with something if you can't convince your agency to do that, or if you're just working on your own. But again, I would try out the free version before you spring for paying for it, because the free version, it has a lot of things that you can use that you don't necessarily have to pay for. And if you don't like their pictures that they have, I mean, they provide a lot of free public domain pictures that you can use when you're creating your Kahoot quiz. If you don't like this, if you have your own, you can add them in. So there's a lot of things that you can do. Check out the free versions before you start spending money on something.
I will mention that there are libraries, and you might want to check with local libraries in your counties and the surrounding counties that have subscriptions to different newspapers, like New York Times and other types of newspapers as well.
Yeah. Most of the public libraries, they do have subscriptions to various magazines and newspapers, and if you just check with them, they will have that. So for example, the library here in Tallahassee and Leon County, we have access online to tons of magazines, everything you can think of. We have access, except for this old house, which I don't know why they just haven't figured that one out yet. But and also newspapers, as Nicole mentioned. Yeah, check with your library. Always, when in doubt, go to the library. Didn't you learn anything from Harry Potter? Didn't you learn anything? Okay. So.
And that is the last question we have.
Okay. All right. Well, I am pretty much done with my presentation. I just wanted to thank everyone. Let's see. Someone just has in the chat here. Let's see. Yeah, language never forget it. Yeah, there's a lot of books out there, and whoa, let's see. I have Nicole.
Yes, you're still
Okay.
here.
I am still here. I have no idea what just happened.
You just accidentally stopped sharing your screen. It's no problem.
I have no idea how that happened. I did not mean to do that. Okay, well, sorry, I didn't have anything else on there. But yeah, so I just want to thank everyone for participating, and I think everyone had some good suggestions and some there's a couple in the chat. I'm looking at the chat too, so that's there was a question about multi-level learner group. Yeah, same thing. I use the Kahoots. I use all of this material with multi-level groups. If you have some vocabulary may not be useful for if someone's very low level and you're using vocabulary.com to help someone prepare for TOEFL, that's going to be just too wide. But yeah, it's most of the time you can just use it with any group, and particularly if you have people that speak the same language, sometimes they will help each other, and that can be very useful for the person who not only who is learning the new vocabulary, but the person who is the higher level and is having to explain something. It will really make them think about it, and it may help them make those deeper connections. We want them to have those deeper roots, those deeper connections to everything. So that's, yeah, multi-level, use everything. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So it doesn't look like there are any other questions, and I hope I've answered everyone's question. If anybody has any questions about anything, please feel free to contact me. I'm at the Leon County Public Library System, and I see a lot of names here that I recognize, so I Yeah, I think you already know how to find me. Okay. All right.
All right,
That's it. Thank you all.
thank you so much, Karen, for your presentation today. I'd also like to thank everyone else for coming for coming out for this. So just a quick wrap up, I am going to be sending out an email to everyone either this afternoon or tomorrow. And I see someone has a question about certificates. So you will receive your certificate for this session after you fill out the survey. You'll have an option to request the certificate of completion. And once you do that, we will create it and then send it to you after the fact. So please don't forget to fill out the survey when it comes to you tomorrow. And again, I'd like to thank the Florida Department of Education for making this possible. And I also want to point out our website to those of you who are still on. We have lots of resources on our website, floridaliteracy.org, so don't forget to check that out as well. All right, so with that, I'd like to thank you all and have a wonderful afternoon.